Hey, good morning, everybody. How's it going? Oh man, I've lost track of days. I don't know what day it is. What is it today?
It's Friday.
Is it Friday? Okay,
Yes,
happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to Invisible Condition. It is not all in your head. Okay, I'm your host, Jeff Pearson. We created this show for you because we know that everybody, or we want everybody, excuse me, with an invisible condition to know that they have a voice, they have a community, and they are not alone. And so that is what we are here for. And speaking of not alone, hello. I am so excited to have Dr. Cyrina Bullard with me today. Good morning, Cyrina.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hello.
I'm very honored to be here. Thank you.
This is awesome. I'm going to pop her name right there so we know who we're talking to here. This is so cool. So we're going to kick off the show with a little bit of excitement. Has anybody out there, I just throwing this out there, anybody out there had a near-death experience? Anybody? Bueller? No. Okay. Not. I mean, I have not personally that I know of. But drop it in the comments if you have, and you have had multiple. You were just telling me you've had more than one.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird. I mean, weird in the sense that it doesn't happen to everybody, but
right.
Like crazy. I want to hear about this. Tell us what you can about that.
Okay, well,
what's going on?
When I was 11, I grew up in Florida and I was struck by lightning.
Oof.
And when my parents found me, I was non-responsive, so my mom had to give me CPR. Thank goodness she knew CPR. Brought me back, had to go to the ER, and fortunately I had on flip-flops, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be here, I don't think, because the doctor's like, they grounded you.
Just the rubber soles?
Yeah, definitely. I'm like, oh, good thing those $2.99 flip-flops came in handy. And then when I was 25, I was kind of on a crazy whitewater rafting ride in New Zealand, and we went off a 21-foot waterfall, and there was 50-50 chance that the boat would flip, and they told us how we would handle that if it happened. We're like, okay, but I thought the boat flipped, but no, it was just me. And so then all this water was coming down and pushing me down, and I swallowed probably like a gallon of water. But thankfully I remembered them saying, hey, if you fall out, your instinct's going to be to swim. Don't do that. You want to ball up so you can roll out and your surface area changes. So I was starting to swim, and then I was like, no, Cyrina, remember, ball up. And luckily I rolled out, and all 8 rafts were waiting for me like, oh my goodness, did you see Elvis? Whoa. Yeah, it was an experience, I tell you what.
Well, at least they told you that. I wouldn't have known that. I've never been, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of water rafting. You would probably never catch me in one of those things. So good for you for doing that. I don't know. You're braver than me.
Well, in New Zealand, they're kind of like adrenaline junkies, and they do these extreme things. And I was like, okay, I'm not quite sure why I'm doing this, but I'm here. I'm going to do know. And it was a fun experience, but it was also very scary. Yeah. With that said, I would say make sure you always pay attention to the safety when you're doing something extreme, because
yes, please.
Yeah, that's really important.
Yeah. And then what's the third one?
Well, when I was 39, I was actually in Vail using my timeshare, and I put that to good use. But I was on a bike ride, and I happened to be by myself. And it was the day I was leaving, and I was en route, maybe like a mile from the condo, and I was riding my bike. Luckily, I had on my helmet, and I was clipped into my bike.
Always wear your helmet.
Yeah, I feel if I didn't, I would not be here.
Right.
So I remember being by the post office, and then I don't remember the rest for 18 days.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, 18 days. I have no memory of. I still don't. And
holy cow.
This happened May 29th, 2010.
Oh my gosh.
So fortunately, I was able to find the first responder, and a year and a half later, I took him out to dinner to thank him for saving my life. And I felt so
really nice dinner.
Yeah. I was like, oh my goodness. And so he said I was non-responsive. He had to give me CPR when he found me. And he said that his father said to him that the money that they spent on the first responders, so he knew how to do CPR, was the best money they ever spent. I was like, oh my
Right?
goodness. I feel so grateful that he took the time to help me and
Seriously.
brought me back and called 911. And I went to Vail Hospital, and then I was flight for life from Vail to Denver
To
Health.
Denver. Okay.
And I was in a coma for 18 days.
Oh, man.
Yeah. It was an experience.
Okay, no more CPR for you. Okay?
Yeah. I'm done with that.
Let's just call it now. Yeah. No more that bike riding. That doesn't see. Okay, whitewater rafting, you're kind of asking for it. Let's be honest. But or like bungee jumping, or
Yeah.
But riding your bike. Okay, sure.
I know. Well, that is one thing I really want to encourage people to make sure they wear their helmets, because you never know. I mean, I'd ridden this path multiple times, and I was on a bike I knew very well, but basically what happened, he said that my front tire went off the path, and then I was clipped in, so I did somersaults with my bike.
Lord.
So it kind of like shook up my whole body. It broke some ribs, I'd never broken a bone before, and I broke some ribs and my spinal cord. So I tell you what, that's
no joke.
Yeah, it was quite
the process. Spinal cord.
Yeah,
and you're okay.
Yeah, well, I crushed T7, I should say. So I'd have spine surgery, and I oftentimes. So I was at Denver Health for 18 days, then transferred to Craig Hospital, and it was interesting because when we were en route to Craig Hospital, I was obviously in an ambulance, and I woke up, and it was the first memory I have, and actually, thankfully, my mother was right next to me. And
that's good.
I recognized her, because you never know after a TBI what's going to happen. And
you really don't.
And I said to her, "Where are we going, Mom?" I had no idea. I was like, "Why am I on a gurney? Why am I in an ambulance?"
You might have thought it was your first time, right? You were like being taken somewhere. You didn't know you were.
I had no idea. Plus, my mother lives in Florida, so I thought we were going to Daytona Beach. I was like, "Where are we going?" And I was just kind of a weird experience.
Nope.
And so we were en route to Craig Hospital, and Craig Hospital is a world-renowned hospital.
Yeah.
For spinal cord injury and traumatic brain injury.
Nice.
And I many times joke, I'm like, okay, I'm an overachiever. I had both spinal cord injury and
if you're gonna go big or go home, right?
Exactly, doing both.
Yeah, if you're gonna do it, just do it. You know, make it worth their time. What are we fixing today?
I tell you.
Good Lord. So what did you? I mean, I was gonna ask you what you learned from that, but like, which one, right? Like.
Well, I think I'd like to focus on the last one, because I feel like that was such a huge impact on my life for months. Well, it still is. It still is an impact on my life.
Obviously, yeah, it always does. It will for the rest of your life, probably. It's no joke. TBIs are serious. Yeah, or it can be.
And what I learned from it, one, I feel so grateful to have such an amazing family support system. My sister was here. She was kind of like my right-hand person.
Where does she live?
She lives in North Carolina.
Oh, wow. She was here.
Well, and she actually lived in Florida at the time, but she came to Colorado, and she is a pharmacist as well, and a nurse, and she kind of made sure she was making that I got the best care possible. And she was working hand in hand with my doctors. My doctors were like, "Your sister let us know if we were doing something wrong." And I was like, wow. And my mom and brothers, everybody was so supportive and loving. And I fortunately have amazing friends who were by my side and praying for me and rooting for me and giving me love. And I think the support helped with my healing for sure.
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, to have that support is almost, I mean, just as important, if not more important, than having the care and the stuff in the hospital. I mean, if you don't feel like you're supported and cared for, then what's the point? So yeah, that's amazing. So in the midst of all these, so this last brain injury, this last brain injury, was that before or after you were working as a pharmacist?
Well, I was working as a pharmacist, and then the accident happened, and they had told my mother that she was going to take care of me for the rest of my life. I would never be able to go back to work.
Come on.
And they put lots of limitations on me, but my family was very protective. They wouldn't let me hear those things because they wanted to encourage me to be, every day we celebrated little things like, because, I couldn't walk, I couldn't
Yeah.
talk, I couldn't
Yeah.
even feed myself.
Mm.
So if I said a word, it was like a celebration,
Yeah.
and my family was so supportive and making sure that I didn't feel discouraged. And, obviously there's days when you feel discouraged when you're going through this,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
but fortunately I had amazing care, and I went through, oh gosh, 9 months of intense rehabilitation. I had a speech therapist,
Whoa.
a physical therapist, an occupational therapist, and they were trying to get me to be able to incorporate back into my life.
Yeah.
And I couldn't drive for 9.5 months, and I had to take my driver's test again, which I was excited because I got 100%. I mean, I know it's not a hard test, but I was it was the first test I took after the brain injury. So
that's awesome.
And I was able to go back to work as a pharmacist. And I felt so fortunate and honored because I had amazing patients there, and really they were like, "Oh, did you have a baby?" And I'm like,
I wish.
Yeah,
that would have been probably easier.
But it was a process, but I felt so supported. But I was back to work for 5.5 years, and then had a second head injury.
Ugh.
So
how long? So when did you become? When did that whole thing start with the pharmacist? Like, when did you want to? You're a pharmacist. Mm-hmm. When did you start that career? Like
many moons ago. It was when I was 23, and I graduated in 1994. So a long time, 30 years ago now. Wow. And almost. 29, almost. Yeah, 29 years ago. And so nice. My father was a pharmacist, and my mother's a medical technologist, and we're always science-oriented people. My sister also became a pharmacist, and my brothers are engineers. So that's kind of like,
good Lord,
we're the science people, I guess. So
yeah, that's a lot of brain power in one's house. I'm not gonna lie, that's that's amazing. So in the midst of all that, so how did this last brain injury influence your next career steps? I mean, obviously you've changed something after that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting because I was dealing with migraines, and I still worked. And then one day I couldn't remember the word vase. And I was like, whoa.
Wait a second.
That made me feel really, really uncomfortable. So then I was like, okay, I only was working maybe for a week after. Yeah. But I was like, I don't feel comfortable, because being a pharmacist, you need to be very in tune and focused and knowledgeable about what you're doing. And I was noticing some memory challenges, and I was like, okay, this is making me very nervous. And so I quit working as a pharmacist, and I had, I'm still licensed, and who knows what the future holds.
Sure.
But I'm dealing with migraines every single day for like 4+ years. And fortunately, we finally found something that works. And I tried so many things, and I was like, oh my goodness, I finally have relief. And
what was it?
Actually, Botox, which is interesting.
Get out of here.
I know. I mean, it's crazy because that Botox works for migraines.
I've heard that, but I've never. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Tell me.
So many things. Well, it's not exactly pleasant because it gives injections all throughout your head and in your trapezius area. And there's like 32 different sites that they inject Botox, but it's the only thing that gives me relief. And I feel like so grateful that we finally found something that works.
So is that something you still do?
Yeah.
Still need to do?
Okay. Yeah.
It's not a one and done type of deal?
No, it's every 3 months. But it starts to wear off as you get closer. Yeah. So I, make sure that I'm.
At least it's once every, it's 3 months.
Right.
Could be worse, I guess.
Yeah, it could be.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot of needles.
Yes.
Yikes. So oh my gosh, there's so much to go there. In your bio, you say something about life-changing events. Was that different from the near-death experiences? Is that like what you distinguished that? So is that?
Well, the life-changing event was when I couldn't practice pharmacy anymore and having to pivot and recreate, and it's scary.
Reinvent yourself, basically.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So how did you? Well, first of all, I guess the first question is, so you have this background of all this, all these people in your house that are just brilliant, and all the background of your life and your pharmacist and all this kind of stuff. Did that help with your being able to transition to your next thing, or was it just totally different and it was a whole new world?
Well, I think there is some overlap. I've become very conscious about helping people with their resilience, because I
Yeah.
feel like this life is a gift, but sometimes it's not so easy, and we all have different challenges. And how can we be resilient?
Right.
And so I became a heart math trainer, and they've got over 25 years of empirical data backing their tools and techniques. So I feel
Wow.
very fortunate to have that knowledge, because it's important for people to have tools to be able to deal with their challenges.
Yeah. So what you stepped into next, did that have anything to do, did your background influence that at all though? Like, was it like, oh, I've done this, so this is the next logical
No, I wouldn't say that,
thing?
but I feel inspired. My colleague Liz and I have created Sustainable Happiness together, and we are definitely inspired to help people in their
Nice.
challenges, because there was a time when I needed all the support and tools that I could have in my tool belt to be able to deal with what I had to deal with.
Yeah,
You know?
because you dealt with a lot.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
a lot.
That is
That's,
a lot.
I mean, near-death experiences is one thing, and then brain injuries on top of it. So that's a lot. I'm not gonna, as somebody who has suffered lots of brain injuries, I can understand. I totally relate to that part. So
Right.
yeah, that is crazy. So I we're actually going to go take a break just for a second here, because
Okay.
the time flies when you're having fun, and we're already at our first break. So we're going to do that, and then, because I don't want to start something and then not be able to, be like, oh wait, no, we were talking. So let's do that, and then we'll be back after a couple minutes, and then we'll talk about on the other side of the break is more about the brain injuries. You had the near death experience stuff, and now we're going to talk about the brain injuries, because that is fascinating as well. So stick around, don't go anywhere, and we will see you in a couple of minutes.
This is Madeline Blair, the host of Unlocked, where we open possibilities for when the unexpected happens. Join me Thursdays at noon and again at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the Business Network, right here on E360 TV.
All right, and we're back. Oh, this is great. So in the first segment, we talked about near-death experiences and all that. That was like, I've never had one myself, so that's fascinating to me. I that's awesome. That you're able to recognize that and know that that's what that was, and carry on in spite of it. So that's amazing. But given all the craziness that you talked about before the break, is that what kind of led you to your current passion of like brain health and
right.
neuroplasticity and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I've been so inspired to learn how to optimize my brain health, obviously.
Yeah.
And the neuroplasticity of the brain is amazing because, you know, when I was in high school, I was told if you drink alcohol, you're going to kill your brain cells and they're never going to come back. You know, I don't know, but we're learning so much about the brain.
Yeah.
And there's so much more to know. And I feel like with some different things that we can introduce into our lives, I never heard about BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor. I never heard about that in pharmacy school, but it's something that
First time I've heard it.
But what's fascinating about it is that it can help your brain repair and have neurogenesis. Because when I had my bicycle accident, I had what's called a diffuse axonal injury, and I basically sheared or tore many axons and different regions of my brain, and had lots of bleeding. And
brain bleed?
Lots of it. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Ooh.
Lots of it. And so I feel like my brain had to recover a lot, and the neuroplasticity is amazing.
Yeah.
And I feel very, very fortunate because BDNF is something that we can be proactive with. Even if you don't have a brain injury, you can help to increase this because they've now shown, well, there's lots of different theories out there, but when you have increased BDNF, you decrease your risk for Alzheimer's and also dementia. That's what they're looking at now. It's not 100% sure, but this is what they're looking at. And
well, is anything really 100% sure when you look at the brain? I mean, it's such a mystery.
It is a mystery for sure.
Come on.
I know it's crazy what we're learning about the brain, but I feel like so thankful that we now know that your brain can repair itself. Yes, it takes a lot of patience.
Never heard that before. Yeah, that's always been, like you said, don't kill the brain cells because they don't come back, you know. Only kill the weak ones, right? But what's BDNF again?
Brain-derived neurotrophic factor.
Yeah,
and we can increase. It's interesting because
I've talk about that a little bit. That's my brain just exploded a little bit.
Well, it's a really neat. As I said, it can help with neurogenesis and also with healing the brain and creating more axon connections within your brain. And when you have a certain area of your brain damaged, you want to make sure that you have accessory pathways and that the brain can maybe compensate for the area that's damaged. And things that we can do to increase our BDNF is one, make sure we get some aerobic exercise in there because that helps to increase our BDNF. Also, the foods that we eat. Do we eat some dark chocolate? Maybe some blueberries, some fish oil. These are things that can also increase.
Chocolate. Yes.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, oh, that's a good one. And omega-3s. Yeah, I know. I like my dark chocolate too. And omega-3s. And then, surprisingly enough, meditation. I guess I shouldn't say surprisingly because I've been meditating every single morning for the past few years for 20 minutes and 20 seconds because there's so much science behind how meditation can help decrease our cortisol levels, help us be more focused, calm, and also increase our BDNF.
Okay.
And so I feel like this is a really important thing for people to know.
So meditation. So what I know this might be going off on a rabbit trail here, but I'm fascinated because I've heard a lot of several guests in the last few weeks talk about that kind of thing, like not always leaning on the medical world, the pharmaceutical world, and going more natural. And meditation seems to be the go-to for a lot of people.
Right.
What in the world is meditation? Like everybody's got a different definition of meditation. For 20 minutes and 20 seconds, which I'm sure you could tell me why that is. But why 20 minutes, 20 seconds? And what the heck is what do you do? What is the meditation for you?
Okay, well, I do 2020 to see 2020. I'm kind of like a numbers person.
Symbolism.
Know?
There it is.
There's some symbolism behind that.
That's what I thought, but I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why. And but I actually use Insight Timer, which is a great app. They have several apps like Calm, Insight Timer, Headspace, that will kind of have guided meditations, and also you can do more quiet meditations, however you would like to do it. But start off small. I think, sitting there for 20 minutes and 20 seconds, it took some practice, like to be quiet, and you need to make sure. I mean, there's obviously going to be thoughts that come in, and
sure. So the idea is to have as blank as possible and just.
Well, right? I think being calm, and there's always going to be things coming in. Just let them thoughts coming in, let them float, and try not to be judgmental about them, and let them float through your thoughts, and it will allow you to be more calm for sure. And there's a lot of studies with children too, looking at making sure that they're knowing their emotions and how to deal with it. And my colleague and I created a course for little kids called Lessons with the Bright Butterfly, and we talk a lot about that as far as mindfulness, resiliency, happiness. And I really feel like these are things that kids can use in their tool belt for sure.
Yeah, that'll maybe save them from having to pop a pill or go to, yeah. I mean, as a therapist, I'm sure you saw plenty of that too. So over the time, but.
Well, I feel fortunate that we do have medications, obviously.
I mean, when it's necessary, yes. Yeah, when you need it. But I'm saying sometimes it's overused.
Yeah, we're an over-medicated society for sure. But I really feel like we can merge some of these together. And actually in hospitals now, they're doing massage therapy. They're doing, many different things to help with healing. And so I think that the Western world is opening up to the different things. And acupuncture and things that were not very common in our world many moons ago, so.
Right. Yeah. Well, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Until you do.
Yeah,
right.
So, yeah.
And that it includes the medical world. You guys don't know everything either. So I'm just going to say it till you do. Right. So what you talk about also, here we go. Get back on track here. You also talk about strengthening resilience and increasing happiness as part of as part of it, right? So what is that? What does that look like?
Well, I believe that this life is a gift. Obviously, I've been challenged with it a few times, but
I agree.
We have a choice to increase our happiness. Yes, there are some people who are dealing with depression who maybe don't feel like they have a choice, and they need to get treatment and help and things of that nature. And that's another thing, actually. Socialization is another thing that increases BDNF and also helps to decrease depression and allowing people to have that. And I feel like if you can be proactive with our happiness, write it down. What brings you happiness? What can you introduce to your day to have more happiness? And then also with resilience, we teach in our courses techniques that are evidence-based techniques to help people understand their emotions, to take control where they're not going to be reactive, but more responsive.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, there is a difference, everybody. By the way, there's a difference. Responsive, not reactive. Yeah,
because I think that many times our emotions will dictate how we are in our world, and
sometimes
we cannot control other people do. We can only control what we do.
Yes.
So it's nice to have, when you're feeling a little agitated, there's little tools to be able to say, hey, okay, I can implement this and bring myself to a calm place again.
Yeah, because really the only thing you have 100% control over is your own attitude, right? That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even that's tough sometimes.
This is true. Many times I have to hit that reset button.
I'm not gonna lie.
It's like, okay. And it's like, you can't feel sorry for at times you can.
Sometimes.
Yes, you can.
Just don't stay there.
Yeah, but I think that you need to allow yourself a window of like, okay, I'm going to be angry and upset for a week, for a month, for a year, whatever you need. But not be that person who's complaining about something that happened in 1990. You want to make sure that you're moving forward, not staying in the emotions of
Yeah.
defeat.
Yeah. Well, and there's lots of ways to do that. And I'm sure that's part of what we're going to talk about too. But with, so your family, you said your family was always really supportive. Your sister came from all the way, far away, and
My whole family came.
like everybody was there, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, Cyrina. So what was their reaction? Like they showed up for all this stuff. Were they supportive? I mean, obviously supportive were they supportive to help you find solutions though, for like your brain and all the stuff you were going through?
Oh yeah, they were completely supportive. And it was interesting
Nice.
because, when you have a brain injury, a lot of it has to do with you have inflammation in your brain. And when I was in the coma, they had it was a drug-induced coma.
Yeah.
And also many times after you have, a traumatic brain injury, they have to give you anti-seizure medications because people can have seizures. But my family was very, very, very conscious of making my space safe. When I went home, I had to have a rack in the bathroom, where I could hold on to.
Yeah.
I had to sit I couldn't stand and take a shower. I had to sit. I mean, I had to have help with many, many, many things.
Yeah.
And I feel so grateful that my family was there for me.
That is not a terrible thing. I mean, really, it's a precautionary thing, right? I mean, you're doing all this stuff. I mean, maybe you could have stood, but it's better to always have the option, right? To do the less hard thing. I don't know. My words aren't coming, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah, it's good.
I think
options are good.
Until I was at a place where I could deal with, hey, okay, I'm feeling unbalanced right now, because that's another thing that comes with traumatic brain injury is your balance is off.
Yeah.
But I feel so fortunate that I feel like my balance is great, and I feel
nice,
definitely in a good space.
So did you do the exercise, so staying fit and stuff during all that? Did you have to do some of it sitting down, or because there's exercise you can do from just about anywhere, right? Or were you like, how did you stay
active
when you're having to sit and lay down a lot? Or
well, to be honest with you, my sister was with me, and we would go for walks. Sometimes I wasn't super active because it took a time for me to have the healing, and so we'd go for walks. She would hold my arm and be supportive and things of that nature, and then friends would come and help me, and I felt like, and I had to ask friends to drive me to the grocery store because I couldn't drive. I mean, it was a whole new process for sure.
Right. So, okay. So all these experiences, there's so much, all this experience, how did that influence your book? You have a book that you wrote, that you came out with, C3, Creating Conscious Connections, right? So
here's the book. And so what I want to say about this, I tell people, I'm like, if you read nothing, I say, read the preface and the postscript, because it's incredible. I tried to get creatingconsciousconnections.com and it wasn't available.
What?
It wasn't available.
Wow.
So one of my girlfriends, I was talking to her, she's like, oh, what are you doing? I said, oh, I'm writing a book. And long story short, she's like, oh, what's the name of your book? And she said, oh my gosh, Cyrina, I just gave up that domain and I changed my domain.
What?
She gifted me that domain. I was like, are you kidding me?
Get out of here. She didn't know you were looking for it, but she gave it up.
She gave it to me. I was like, oh my goodness, what are the chances of that? And
that's so cool.
So she
so you had to call it that. I mean, obviously.
Well, I just feel so fortunate.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And in the book, I talk about my almost 3 times dying experiences, my family and friends support. And then also I talk a lot about epigenetics, resiliency, meditation, and different things you can introduce into your day to have overall well-being, because I think we have to be conscious and have some time for ourselves.
Epigenetics?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me what that is, because you just kind of glossed over that, and I don't know what that is. What is epigenetics?
Well, we used to think that our DNA was our destiny, and we now know that's not the truth. Because we can't control what we get from our parents, but our environment dictates the expression of certain genes. We can have identical twins who have exactly the same genes, and one will have, let's say, cancer, and the other one doesn't. Why is that? Why was that gene turned on? And so the environment that we live in, what chemicals we're being exposed to, what exercise we do and do not do, the foods that we eat, so many different things can impact the expression of our genes. And so I think it's fascinating to know that our environments impact our overall well-being. What relationships are we in? Who do we surround ourselves with? We need to be conscious of that because it can impact many things in our lives.
Oh my gosh, you're not kidding. I mean, this is like way beyond the whole speech you get from your parents, right? Like, be careful who you hang around, right? Because you might be like them, or whatever. But that never stops. Like, just because you're not a kid in kindergarten,
right?
We're adults, and it still applies. Be careful who you hang around and who you associate yourself with, and who you let influence you, because it can make an impact, right?
Yeah, because you want to surround yourself with people who empower you to be your best.
Exactly.
And we're not always going to be our best, but we can always try.
Right. I mean, nobody's perfect. Come on.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you surround yourself with the right people, then that certainly helps.
Yeah, definitely.
So how can this book? You've got all these stories, you've got all this help in there. How can you, like, give me an example of how it could help somebody if they're, they give you, like, why would you hand your book to somebody? Like, what would they need that could help?
Well, I think in general, it illustrates how, one, you never know what life's going to throw you. Two, you can be resilient and come back from challenging situations.
Yeah.
Three, there's a lot of tools we can put in our tool belt to help us in our daily lives, but we've got to be proactive. And so I think that there has to be a shift. And I should say that, not everybody's the same. We all respond differently to different situations, and different things work, but you might find some tools that will help you.
That's true. Yeah, no, everybody's different. So it's good to have a variety of tools. And so, yeah, no, that's awesome. I can't wait for people to get their hands on that book. And because it's amazing. We're going to talk about it a little more on the other side of the break, but we have blown through another segment here.
Oh,
so
wow.
I know.
Quick.
I know. What I say the first time, time flies when you're having fun.
That's right.
You. So we have one more segment coming up. So stick around. Because we're going to talk about one last thing with the book, and then we're going to help you get connected with Cyrina, so that you can learn more and talk with her directly about all this amazing stuff that she's doing. And so, yeah, stick around through the break, and we'll be right back in just a couple minutes. Here we are. Welcome back, everybody. I'm still here with Dr. Cyrina Bullard, and we are talking about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we are.
I mean, honestly, it's kind of making my head explode a little bit how much we've talked about over this last few minutes. So, my goodness, yeah. So put your book up there again, because we want to make sure people know this is what you want to get a hold of right here.
It's on Amazon, and it's an audiobook too. And the website's not
still working on that.
Still needs to be fixed.
But yeah, Amazon. Amazon's always fast and easy. So yeah, especially if it's an audiobook, that's a no-brainer. So that's awesome. In fact, the audio, honestly, this might be getting off the subject here for a second, but with a brain injury, with multiple brain injuries, have you noticed it being easier to do the audiobook thing, or can you still, reading is so challenging for me. Audiobooks are my go-to, because I just can't, it just works me over.
Right.
So
I mean, I can see that. I'm more of an audiobook person because I can multitask and do different things. And, and I love audiobooks because I can get through a lot of them. I mean, I do read every once in a while, but more audiobooks, I would say.
You can do it while you're driving.
Exactly.
Okay. I just didn't know if that was part of the reason you made it an audiobook too, because of maybe people that have brain injuries that might not be able to read as easily as listening to a book. So just curious. So that's cool. Always good to have options, right?
Yes, so this is true. This is true.
So in this chunk, in this section of the show, I wanted to talk about your Sustainable Happiness Together program, and how our audience can connect with you, because and how they can be helped by it, because that's a big deal. So talk about that for a second and see how can we reach out to you.
Well, my colleague Liz Rutledge and we are certified in many different things, and we're wanting to really help people thrive and be resilient and happy in their lives. And we've created evidence-based tools for them in these courses. And if you go to sustainablehappiness-together.com, you can go onto our website and set up an exploratory call and see how we could work together in some fashion, whether it's an online course, whether it's coaching or speaking, whatever it might be, because we're both speakers and we both want to try to give back to this world and help people live their best lives. Yeah. And I feel very fortunate that Liz and she's been teaching mindfulness at elementary school, at schools for over 10 years. Wow. And those kids are like, oh my gosh, you helped me so much learn how to, deal with my brother. And it was really
what does mindfulness look like talking to a classroom of elementary school students? That seems kind of like herding blind cats on that, you know what I'm saying? How do you do that?
Well, she actually has a tuning bowl, and the kids have been very responsive. Now, mind you, I'm not with her when I went to one.
So you haven't. Okay.
I went to one session, but the kids were very attentive, and I was like, wow, I was really surprised. And the course that we created for kids, the one I mentioned earlier, the Lessons from the Bright Butterfly, the kids are really enjoying it. And we associate the life cycle of the butterfly with, metamorphosis, and allowing them to have those skill sets associated with the life cycle of the butterfly. And I feel
that's cool. I love it. Well, because sometimes it's easier to teach things to a certain group, right? It's easier for adults to understand certain things or whatever. But if this is accessible to kids too, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So,
we figure we want them to have a strong foundation at a young age.
Yeah.
Because as a pharmacist, I would see children come in for anti-anxiety meds, antidepressants, which thankfully we have them for them, but they would also turn to alcohol and drugs when they didn't know how to deal with their emotions.
Yeah.
So we want at a young age for them to be able to say, okay, I'm having this emotion. We all have them. And how can I move through this? And
well, and how can I move through this constructively instead of destructively?
Exactly.
And end up better on the other side, rather than addicted to something maybe, or, or get hurt in a car wreck because I drove drunk, or I mean, there's so many wrong ways to do it. It's better to have the right way, shown to you. So that's huge.
Yeah, and to have the tools there, it's for ages 3 to 8 at a young age, so that they can be able to navigate life and the different challenges that can arise.
Yeah. 3?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the terrible threes, right? Not the terrible twos, right? Everybody talks about the terrible twos. It's the threes. So that's a good age for it. Good job. That's a good age to start, because sometimes the threes can be crazy. So, man, if you could teach it at 3 years old, that's valuable, man. Start them young.
Yeah.
Oh, so, man, so with all of this that you've been through, all of the crazy and all of the unpredictable and the scary stuff that you've been through, how do you, Cyrina, find hope day to day on your most challenging days?
I have to say that having a gratitude journal has been such a gift in my life.
Nice.
I learned about that when I became, when I learned more about happiness and the science behind it. And I really, really feel like having a gratitude journal makes me think, okay, there is good in my life. And when it maybe sometimes doesn't feel like it, and it gives me hope, like, okay, I can move forward. This is a challenging day and it is what it is, but I'm hopeful that tomorrow is a new day and I can hit that reset button. And I really feel we need to remember that as people. We're not always going to have a good day, but we can start today is a new day and have that mindset and allow ourselves to embrace that mindset. And then also I feel very fortunate that I have so many people who prayed for me, and and I feel like I'm here for a reason. If I've almost died 3 times in my life, I guess I'm not supposed to be gone yet. So I'm like, okay,
right?
What is my, what am I supposed to bring to the world? So hopefully this will bring more happiness, resiliency, and mindfulness to our world.
Nice. Well, and I love that. I love the gratitude thing. Like, it's fun that made me remember something that I think it was something my wife learned from a parenting something, or I don't remember exactly where we learned it, but it was every time, like, when the kids are little, or even when they're teenagers, let's be honest, when they're teenagers, that's probably more actually, and they come and they're complaining and they're all upset about something, and she'll just stop them in their tracks, be like, stop, give me 3 things you're grateful for. Or something like that, and so it's like,
you're making me do this again.
Come on. But honestly, I think there's this physiological thing that happens when you say out loud things you're thankful for.
And you see more things to be thankful for when you're in that mindset. And it was
it opens up your mind to see more that you can be thankful for. Exactly.
It's a beautiful day, but it's interesting because many of us, there was a time when I said I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk, I couldn't even feed myself, and these are things that many of us take for granted,
right?
But they're gifts that can be taken away at any time. And that was something I became very conscious of as well after my accident, making sure that I am grateful for the fact that I can take care of myself.
Yeah. I mean, you take so much for granted.
Yeah.
Over in this life, it's when nothing is an obstacle, when you don't have big obstacles in your way, and your life seems to be great, oh, my life is great. That's almost a disservice, because once you go through challenges, if you're fortunate, this is going to sound really weird, but if you're fortunate enough to go through huge challenges in your life, it actually can be a good thing, because it forces you into gratitude almost, because it's like, oh my gosh, I woke up today.
Right. Yeah, this is true.
Very as simple as that. So
yeah, we all have different experiences in our life, and obviously what may be traumatic to one person is not to the other, but I feel like we've got to respect people and where they are, but also know that, hey, if you're going through a really hard time, you can get through it.
Yes,
you can. And it breaks my heart because the suicide rate has gone up so much after COVID, and I'm just like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Well, between that reason, and I mean, in Colorado, we're in Colorado Springs, and we have a huge military presence here with 3 bases in the Air Force Academy and Space Force and Cheyenne Mountain. And there's so much military here, and that is a whole other population that struggles with that too. With all that they go through when they're protecting the freedom that we enjoy, it can really, it's a suicide rate all by itself. It's so big, and so I mean, this is not a small task you're taking here,
right?
To be able to change some of that, with with the book and with what you're talking about. So it's huge. It's a huge task, but it's a good thing to do. So
well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, somebody's got to do it. There's so much negative out there. You got to counteract it somehow. So I'm glad you're doing that. But is there anything that, with all these challenges and all this misdiagnosis and all this different stuff that you went through, what are you thankful for in the midst of all that? Anything that sticks out?
I'm thankful to be here. And
just in general,
I just feel very thankful for the support, my family, my friends, and that I'm here and that I made it through those challenges.
Right.
And I'm resilient.
Yes, you kind of had to be, but now you're on the other side, and now that serves you well now.
Yeah, it's interesting because HeartMath defines resiliency as a capacity to prepare for, recover from, and adapt in the face of stress, challenges, and adversity. And when you're about to get into a challenging situation, you can prepare for it beforehand.
Yeah.
I mean, to bring your best self forward.
If it's a situation that hits you out of nowhere, then you're not prepared. Then you need tools to deal with that.
Right. Exactly.
Right? So yeah. And in the midst of it, it's not the time to learn them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's why it's a resiliency muscle. We gotta work it. You gotta make sure that you're implementing tools to work it all the time.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff like that, right? You gotta make the decision ahead of time so that when the situation presents itself, you already know what you're going to do.
Right. You can be proactive. And
exactly.
I always joke, I'm like, I wish I could say I went to the gym and worked out one time and really fit and never have to go back, but we all know that's nice. Yeah, that's all. That's
that'd be so cool. Yeah, so. Oh man. Well, so in our last couple of minutes here, and I know it's been fast, but how can people connect with you, find your book, find your programs, find you and be able to connect with you directly?
Well, on Amazon is where my book is. So you can find the C3 Creating Conscious Connections. It's in Audible form, ebook, and also paperback. And my colleague and I have sustainablehappiness.together.com. And I mentioned earlier, if you go to the website, there's a link and you can schedule like an exploratory call to see how we can work together to help you on your journey. And we want to make sure that everybody has the tools to be able to navigate life. And we're on social media, and I think there'll be the links.
When this gets posted on the, after the live is done, it's always available on demand, and we can put those links in there.
Awesome. So, great.
Yeah.
Be the links for the social media
it's all the different social media and your websites, and you sent us a couple different websites, I think. So yeah, we can get all of that in there so that people can connect with you. And that's the best way you did.
Yeah. Okay. I would say or they can email us at info@sustainablehappiness.together.com.
Perfect. That's probably the most direct.
Yeah.
Right. Just if you want to work with Cyrina
and Liz,
and Liz, just reach out directly to them, and they'd love to talk to you. And it's been amazing. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm glad that I'm here too. And I'm so thankful for you.
Right? It's always better to be, it's like upright and out of the house. It's a good day, right?
Yeah, this is true.
So, well, thank you for being here and for being so open to share and get the word out about all this. And everybody, seriously, hook up with her on the email and get this info, because it's awesome. And I want to just reach out to anybody that would like to join us in this, that anybody that wants to get the word out about their company or anything, we'd be more than happy to talk to you about, any advertising opportunities or creating a commercial for you, anything like that, because this is an amazing platform to do that. And I think that's about it. So next show, you are going to love this. Kathy McCarty is going to be our next guest on, what day is it today? It's Friday, Tuesday. Yeah. I'm telling you, I don't know what the deal is today. I can't even remember what day it is, but on Friday. Okay. On Tuesday, Kathy McCarty, she has a condition with her eyes, something called Graves' disease that that has been kind of a thing going on that I don't understand Graves' disease. Honestly, this is kind of the cool thing about this show. I get to learn about I get to learn about all this stuff that I didn't know was even out there. So join us Tuesday, June 27th at 10 a.m. Mountain Time for our live show on that. And it's going to be great. It's going to be amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you next time. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you on Tuesday.
Have a great day.